Another low-scoring game for the Panthers, but it was the LA Kings who took over in the third period to get the 2 regulation points.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On Los Angeles Kings podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to our team every day. Thank you for making both our Locked On podcasts your first listen of the day. Armando Velez here from the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, joined by Eddie Garcia of Locked On LA Kings, here to recap the Florida Panthers' 2-1 loss against the LA Kings from Los Angeles. Now for the Panthers, it is 5 straight losses from Crypto.com Arena. And here to join me to break down more of this loss for the Panthers and the win for the LA Kings after bouncing back after a loss on Monday night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, he is Eddie Garcia of Locked On LA Kings and one half of the Puck podcast. Eddie, grateful to be connecting with you, my friend.
Armando, it is good to talk to you. Certainly a very eventful game between our two teams that are looking to obviously get in the playoffs. The Panthers looking to defend their championship. The Kings are looking to just get out of the first round, which they haven't done in quite a while. But it's been an interesting season so far for both teams, and certainly an interesting matchup in LA as well.
Yeah, and for this matchup, I mean, for the Panthers, they were coming off 5-1 on the second end of a back-to-back, and then LA, they were coming in 5-1 against teams on the second end of a back-to-back. So something had to give in this one. But after a lackluster performance for the Kings against the Pittsburgh Penguins on Monday, they come into this one, a nationally televised game, honor the people of the Los Angeles Fire Department, which there was also supposed to be more people there, but there was another fire that happened in Los Angeles. So those guys are definitely working overtime. But for this game, for the Kings, they were winning more of the 50-50 battles whenever it came to the Panthers trying to get through the neutral zone for them. Panthers only getting 5 shots on goal for them. And then the Panthers, 17 shots in the second period, where they were really connecting on their passes, getting the pucks in deep, working it, did eventually manifest into a goal from power play 2, which is their first power play goal in their last 4 games. So that's a little bit of a drought that's been broken. This last stretch, Eddie, has been just really about the Panthers breaking some droughts, with Sam Bennett scoring last night against the Anaheim Ducks for the first time in 20 games, and now the power play, which they're still without Aaron Ekblad for them. But first period for these two, really tight and for them, and then the Panthers taking over a bit in the second. So how did you see the first 2 periods for LA on their side of things, on how they were able to still keep this in control?
Well, I saw it, I think just the way you saw it as well. I thought the first period was hard fought, close. The Kings, came into this game with an offense that had been struggling a bit. They were they lost 4 of their last 5 games. And the Kings hadn't lost 3 in a row until very, very early in the regular season. So they had lost 2 straight, looking to avoid that 3rd loss in a row. Also getting ready to go on a 5-game road trip, which we'll see the Panthers again coming up in Sunrise next week. But I thought, first of all, I knew that the offense was going to be a struggle probably again against a good team, but the Kings have been pretty successful this year playing great defense, keeping it close, and kind of finding a way to win. And that's pretty much what they did, I thought, in this game against Florida. But I thought, as far as the first 2 periods go, I thought it was a very even first period. Second period, obviously the Panthers won that period. They get the power play goal, take the lead, and that kind of set the stage for the third period, where the way the Kings have been struggling offensively, didn't feel too confident, but they've been great at home. And again, as I've said, they kind of always give themselves a puncher's chance when they keep it close the way they have. The defense was great. I thought goalie Darcy Kemper was really, really good. I thought both goalies are really good. But just kind of setting that stage for the third period, it's just keep it close, try and work hard and hopefully to get a break or two, in that final period. And that's what happened.
One thing that stuck out to me for the Kings was just not keeping the puck on their sticks too long in the D zone, especially when the Panthers were coming on their forecheck and everything for them, and also for how the Panthers were just a little the attention to detail wasn't necessarily the best there for how they were getting their sticks in lanes for the two penalties that Quentin Byfield drew. I mean, they say, hey, you got to be in control of your stick for Barkov going for that check and then the turnover by Matthew Tkachuk. But it's, again, 3 straight games where the Panthers get 2 penalties early, but then don't commit a single penalty the rest of the way. And that's great. And I think that's a little bit of a great trajectory for a team that leads the league in penalties. And the broadcast also mentioned that the Kings are one of the teams that draw the least amount of penalties in the NHL. But for the Panthers there, getting that power play goal, 3 goals in the last 4 games by Evan Rodriguez, Mackie Samoskevich, 4 points in the last 4 games. We'll talk more about Mackie Samoskevich in segment number 2 for him. But then the third period happened for the Kings after the Panthers got the first shot, 13 straight shots for the Kings in the period, and then after a failed clear by the fourth line, Spencer Knight tried to glove it, but I believe it bounced off of Uvis Belinski's skate before he could even was able to freeze the puck there. And then Samuel Helenius gets his first career goal for the Kings. So your thoughts on him getting his first in the National Hockey League in just over 20 games played?
Well, it's always a special moment. But this is a kid who's really big, 6'6", 6'7", young guy, a guy who I think the Kings had hopes eventually would turn into an NHL player. It's funny, a couple years in a row, the Kings have had a couple players that we didn't think we would see at all at the NHL level, make the team and have somewhat of an impact. Last year was Alex Laferriere. We didn't think he'd make the team. There was an injury. He got an opportunity, played 81 to 82 games, and already this season, even though he's out injured, has eclipsed his career highs from last year. And Samuel Helenius was not a guy we thought we would see in the NHL this year much. But again, an injury happens. He gets an opportunity, and he's stayed up pretty much since. Big wingspan, big kid, physical, but still trying to figure it out. But it's always a special moment when a guy gets his first NHL goal. He's been mostly a fourth line guy, getting his opportunities here and there. But obviously, for him to be even on the ice in a close game in the third period, obviously speaks well for him, for what the coaches, believe in him. And I thought Tanner Jeannot made a really great play on that one, keeping the puck alive after I believe it hit him, kind of poking at it. And then Helenius goes to the net. Obviously, good things happen when you do that for the most part, and he's able to just tap it in. But I thought emotionally, to get that tying goal when the Kings are having such a hard time getting any quality shots and have it be the first goal for a rookie really energized the Kings. I think you could feel it. The building obviously kind of exhaling a little bit, saying, thank God, finally a goal after, just getting the one goal in the previous game and people talking about the offense. So, you talk about a turning point in the game. To me, that's clearly it. Again, young guy, first goal, ties it up. It's exciting, energizes the building. And I think you could see from that point on that the Kings were the better team.
Yeah. And also for just their ability to just take advantage of pouncing on a puck when the shot went off of Uvis Belinski's hand and then shaking up a little bit, and then him getting that goal on the back end. And then after that, the Hiller switched the wings a little bit there for Turcotte and Fiala, and then Kevin Fiala getting that shot where Adrian Kempe gets his 24th of the season, 4th straight game with a goal, and almost got a second one on a breakaway where Gustav Forsling went for a check and on the battle off a rush, and then the goal was dislodged for Spencer Knight right before the puck crossed the goal line. But still, the Panthers made a push after bringing in the extra attacker with 2:25 left, and the Panthers called a timeout with a minute left, but still were unable to get that game tying goal for them. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss more of our standouts for tonight's game between the Florida Panthers and the LA Kings in the 2-1 Kings win over the Florida Panthers. We're going to discuss that next here on this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On LA Kings. But first, we're going to tell you guys all about FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bucks if your first bet wins. That's $300 to keep the action going. And so just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment number 2 here on this crossover post-game edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On Los Angeles Kings. Armando Velez of Locked On Panthers here with Eddie Garcia of Locked On LA Kings to recap this 2-1 Kings victory over the Florida Panthers. So, Eddie, the Panthers had a 1-0 lead going into the third period, but this is the second time in the last few weeks that the Panthers lose a third period lead and lose in regulation. And that did not happen for almost 2 years. And now it's happened twice in the last week. So now that record since January of 23, 87-2-4 when leading after 2. So it's a little bit of a readjustment for the Florida Panthers now after blowing another lead for them. But I still felt that the Panthers did a lot to win this hockey game for them, and which leads to standout players that I want to discuss. And I'll give mine from the Florida Panthers side, and I'll have you give yours from the LA Kings. Mackie Samoskevich getting in front of pucks. He's been inserted on the second line recently for him and Sam Bennett, and they're just continuing to feed off each other well. Saw him and Joel Edmondson were going a little bit back and forth with their battles there for them. Evan Rodriguez, another one for him. So getting that goal off the power play, off an incredible pass from Evan Rodriguez, and that was from a secondary assist from Samoskevich after it bumped off the end boards. And also AJ Greer, who spent a lot of time in the AHL, moved up with Boston, Calgary, was getting in the face of Darcy Kemper. He was, as the broadcast mentioned, he was doing his best Matthew Tkachuk impersonation. So he really did everything he could to really get under the skin of the LA Kings there, but they weren't biting for them. So I want so your standout players in this one for the Kings in their victory.
Well, I think it's a pretty easy choice for the Kings if I was going for 3 stars in this one. Obviously, Samuel Hellenius has to get one of the stars. If you're sentimental, maybe he's the number 1 star because it was his first goal. And that goal did really change the tide of the game. Obviously, Adrian Kempe would be one of the stars as well, leading the team in goals and points. He's really carried the Kings of late. He's got a goal now in 4 straight games. I believe he's got 6 goals in 9 games this month. So he's been carrying the load for them when they've struggled a bit offensively. He gets the game winner. But I thought Darcy Kemper had another great game. He's been one of the best players for the Kings all year. Certainly wondered what he was going to be like when he came over from Washington, where he had lost his starting job. He comes in that trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois, and he's been even better than I could have expected. Thought he had a number of really quality saves in this one. 26 saves on the night, 13, 4, and 5. That's actually not there. There's 4. Where did I have his number? Oh, he has 13, 4, 13, 4, and 5, the record for Darcy Kemper. So they've gotten points in 18 of his 22 starts this year. So when he's in net, good things happen. So those would be my 3 stars: Samuel Hellenius, Adrian Kempe, and Darcy Kemper.
Yeah, and I spoke about it on the preview show just about how Kemper might have been doubted quite a bit after how high flying of an offense the Colorado Avalanche were when they won the Stanley Cup, and not needing the best out of Darcy Kemper in that playoff run, as the Avalanche only lost 4 times in that whole playoff run for them in road to the Stanley Cup for them. But so once again, another great story for Darcy Kemper there for him. So for this game, like I said, I thought the Panthers did everything they could to win the game. I thought their shifts were really short, and it kind of reminded me of a second end of a back-to-back that they played recently in New Jersey, where Paul Maurice answered a question to the ESPN broadcast at the time about not having the prettiest of game, but not worrying about selling tickets on the road. It's kind of the same thing in this situation for them. Second end of a back-to-back, your backup goaltender is in the net, and the fact that the Panthers really the 2 goals coming later in the game, and also rather losing a 2-1 game as opposed to a 7-5 game. So these are the things that you could take away from where you could feel positive even for the Panthers coming in with 0 points in this one. But all right, so the moment where we knew the game was ultimately decided in the case of the Florida Panthers, the moment where we knew the game was lost. Panthers put the extra attacker with 2:25 left. Panthers were cycling the puck. The Kings had an attempt at icing the game with a chance at the empty net. Panthers called timeout with a minute left. The top guys are gassed. But then there was a moment where Matthew Tkachuk, right on the goal line, had an opportunity at an open net, misses. So that was my moment where I said, for the Panthers, it's not going to happen tonight. They're not going to find a way to force this into overtime. So for you, Eddie, what was your moment where you knew the game was won by the LA Kings?
Well, I can't. I know it's a good question. To me, again, the game turned on the Samuel Hellenius goal. I won't go so far as to say I knew that's when the Kings were going to win, but that's when I knew that the game was winnable, right, for the Kings. Like I said, you get a rookie gets his first goal, it ties the game, and it just energized the crowd. And it was a different game at that point. The Kings were having a lot of trouble generating any offense, generating any sustained pressure in the Florida end. But after that happened, it completely energized the whole team. They were keeping the puck in the Florida end. They were getting scoring chances, and it just changed the game. So I like I said, I can't go so far as to say that's when I knew they were going to win, but that's when the game absolutely changed. So the key moment for me is that moment. You're right. Matthew Tkachuk had the wide open net, and I wasn't even sure he didn't score at first until I saw him put his stick over his head.
Yes,
as to say, what just happened. I thought he was going to celebrate for a second, but he was putting the puck on top of his head like, I can't believe I just missed that. So clearly, yes, I completely understand coming from your point of view how you're like, well, there was the chance. And when you don't capitalize on that chance, especially a guy like that who's scored plenty of big goals coming through in the clutch, that I can certainly understand why you would say, well, that was the moment where you're like, yeah, it's just not going to be our night tonight.
Yeah. And for the Panthers, for the Kings, for how they were able to get to the slot area later into the game when they were struggling to get there. The Panthers were just having a hard time with sticking a fork in it and actually getting those puck back to the corner so that they could go to battle there. And I thought that Spencer, especially from shots from distance, where he was especially in the first 40 minutes of how he was able to direct the pads to get it to the corners so that the Panthers could get to work there. It just wasn't happening in the third period, especially with how extended that time was between the Panthers' first shot and then their next after. And then after that, only 4 the rest of the way. So, and 2 of them in the 6-on-5. So, not a lot of those second chance opportunities for the Panthers as the game got into crunch time for them. But we're going to transition to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss more of what's going on in the community of LA for what has happened with the wildfires over the last week. And two defensemen, one for each team, are set to make their returns. We're going to discuss that more next on this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On LA Kings.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. And now Game Time has made getting tickets to whatever event you want to go to even easier. They've got a new feature called Game Time Picks. They help you filter out the fluff so that you only get incredible deals on great seats and you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks, I found amazing deals and could even view my seat before I bought it with their panoramic view in the app. It's awesome. You can see exactly the view you're going to get, and you get seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app all-in pricing shows you the total upfront, no surprises at checkout with any kind of hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Third and final segment here on this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On LA Kings, where the Kings defeat the Florida Panthers by a final score of 2-1 and have now won 5 straight games over the Panthers from Crypto.com Arena in downtown LA. So one thing I want to discuss is a charitable event that's going on in LA about that Will Arnett and Luc Robitaille spoke about in the broadcast prior to the game. So I want to get your thoughts on what's going to be going on in February later on, Eddie.
Yeah, obviously, this was news to me as well here in Los Angeles when they announced it during the game. So, obviously, the entertainment industry is huge here in Los Angeles. You got a lot of transplanted stars who are hockey fans, like Will Arnett. Will Ferrell is also a huge Kings fan. He's actually here from Los Angeles. We see him at games all the time. But it's kind of like, Will Arnett's a Leafs fan, but, you live here and you go to games here because you're here. And so they kind of adopt the Kings as kind of maybe their girlfriend team, or something like that. But yeah, it's great to see, the community coming together. The fires are still going on. Unfortunately, a lot of the bigger fires, one of the real destructive fires have been kind of contained, but there's been a new fire that just popped up. I've got some friends who have been evacuated. It's more in northern LA County, different area, but Los Angeles is so spread out. It's such a big area. There, as you mentioned, there were supposed to be a larger group of firefighters that were going to be honored before the Kings Panthers game, and they had to go fight the fire. They had to go to work. So obviously we're, very grateful for all the hard work those people have done and continue to do. But yeah, it's great to see, the entertainment industry and the Kings coming together to try and do their part. And hopefully this will be a fun event to go to. A lot of guys hopefully I don't know exactly the list of who the entertainers are that might be involved in this, but it should be a great event and hopefully raise a lot of money and help as much as they can.
Yeah. And hopefully the people in need are able to get the help that they need for a incredibly devastating time, and sending my best to everybody out in Southern California for everything. And then hearing Trevor Moore on the broadcast, a California native, to discuss about it. I'm sure that this is something that is definitely, he knows a person, even if his family is not directly involved in everything for these fires in California. But one thing that's going to be happening for both of these teams is 2 defensemen, high-profile defensemen, are set to make their returns to the lineup. Drew Doughty, after a horrific injury in the preseason, was practicing with a non-contact, no non-contact jersey, for him today. And Aaron Ekblad for the Florida Panthers skated earlier today. And Paul Maurice said that he's close and that the hope is that he would return to practice on Friday. And This is going to be such a relief for the Panthers because he is their current solution right now for the power play, but it's not long term for them. So that it will actually help sustain a lot of things. And then, but also, as I said in my preview, what the LA Kings have been able to do with him out of the lineup defensively has just been incredible. And also, I was looking up the stats on points and shots by defensemen from the LA Kings. They're also a big part of generating offense for them this season. I'm just looking. I mentioned Joel Edmondson earlier, about how he was how Mackie Samoskevich was getting in his grill, but just the amount. But Spence with 2 shots on goal, Gavrikov with 2 as well. So the fact that he's coming back as well of Drew Doughty, what a boost this must be for Los Angeles.
Yeah, and especially, and it's funny you talk about Aaron Ekblad and your power play. The Kings' power play has been really bad this year. If there was one area of their team play that you point to and say that's not good, it's without question the power play. Everything else has been at least good, if not great. But the power play is just it's not getting any better. So the hope is that the return of Drew Doughty, the quarterback for their number 1 power play unit, I mean, it can't hurt. I think maybe we need to hold our expectations that he's going to ride in on a white horse and save the day. That might not be fair to him. Plus, by the way, he's coming off an injury. It may take him a while to get going. But it couldn't hurt. It can't hurt. But it is interesting because Vladislav Gavrikov, you mentioned him. He's normally on the second pairing on the left side, and they moved him to the top pairing on the right side, and he's been amazing. He's been so good that I think he's been the Kings' first half MVP, and he's a free agent at the end of the year. So it's his price tag is going up and up for this offseason. So a great first half for him. It's going to be interesting to see how they bring Drew Doughty back, where they put him as far as him fitting into the lineup. Do they move Gavrikov back to the left side and put Doughty right back on the top pairing with Mikey Anderson? Probably, but his minutes will be limited, I would guess. You mentioned he is out of the red non-contact jersey for the first time on Wednesday. He is going on the road trip, but Jim Hillard wouldn't say for sure if he would play on this road trip. It is the dad's trip, right, where all the dads go with the team on the road. So he said he would be going on this with his dad regardless. So we'll see, but we'll see. I don't expect him to be available for the rematch in Sunrise against you guys, but we'll see. He is on the trip. The non-contact jersey is off, so he is close to coming back.
Oh, and I'm just looking at their Puckpedia page right now, and they're just over 80 million. So it doesn't look like that they'll be carrying a full 23 if my math is correct here with Drew Doughty coming back. But yeah, right now Gavrikov, 29 years old, set to be a free agent, like you said. So hard to make judgments on a guy going into his 30s whenever you're thinking, okay, how is it going to fit from then? And then what LA has been doing over these last few years, getting out of like a little bit of a small retool and then trying to get back into contention for them. So going to be definitely very interesting for them and just how they just navigate everything overall. And like you said, we will definitely monitor this over the next few days, as now the LA Kings will be heading on a road trip. So, but also you said about LA struggling on offense. Hopefully for LA, what Doughty can do as far as just getting the puck to the net and then hopefully creating second chances, especially for someone, guys like maybe a Kevin Fiala who's struggled this year, and Quinton Byfield. Maybe that's what the LA Kings need for getting those second chance opportunities off a rebound off the pads for them. But also, I know NHL and TNT was also discussing a possible pickup for the LA Kings as a right-handed shot winger for Quinton Byfield. So, any thoughts on that?
One name that I keep hearing, and it seems that it could be a fit, is Kyle Palmieri of the New York Islanders. Veteran guy, is a right-handed shot, can help you out in your power play, has some postseason experience. I know obviously fans always want to make a big splash and get a big name, but I think, the Kings are just looking to add a piece that can help. And that seems to kind of fit the mold to what LA is probably looking for.
Yeah. And $5 million that Kyle Palmieri is making. So likely going to be something, a third party broker for possibly some retained salary there for if they were to make that trade for someone to for a team trying to get over that first round hump for them. And hopefully and personally, it's not that I want to see a repeat matchup, but I just hope that the LA Kings get a different opponent this time around and actually just for something different this time around. But hey, if they get the Oilers again, I guess challenge accepted for them and
yeah, there's a lot of mixed feelings about that. On the one hand, we don't want to see them again, and they probably don't want to see us again because they're tired of. I mean, it sounds silly to say they're tired of beating us, but you know what I mean. It is kind of we've seen it and done that. But on the other hand, if the Kings were to face the Oilers, and if they could finally get the monkey off their back, it would not feel like just a first round. It would feel like a huge burden has been lifted. But we'll see. Vegas has been sliding of late. Edmonton has been great, so maybe it could be if it's the 2-3 matchup. Maybe it's Vegas and LA this year. We'll see.
Maybe. And that would be just fun especially with how geographically close they are. Looks like the Panthers did not take advantage of the Leafs losing tonight to the Columbus Blue Jackets at home. Adam Fantilli had 80 plus people in attendance, and he scores a hat trick. They showed his mother taking the hat off.
That was great.
And ready to throw it on the ice. So she was just ready to chuck that. So big congratulations to Adam Fantilli there. But the Panthers still don't take advantage, 3 points back of the Leafs, and they have the same amount of games played. So still right now for the Panthers, still in that second spot in the Atlantic Division. But Eddie, I want to thank you so much for doing this crossover edition with myself. Grateful once again to connect with you, and especially now and especially in the past as well on the Puck podcast. So thankful to be connecting with you. Tell everybody where they can follow you and your work online, my friend.
If you want to check out Locked On LA Kings, that would be great. Obviously, Locked On Panthers, we have the same problem because there's another professional team with your name and there's another professional team with my name. So you got to include the LA Kings or else you get a basketball team from Northern California. But you can just, Google Locked On LA Kings. You'll find the YouTube channel and of course, wherever you get your podcasts as well. We'd love to have anybody that wants to check out the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And if the Kings fans come over to my show, they know that I put a lot of emphasis on the Florida, not just in my introduction, but also my descriptions in my YouTube and podcast releases there. So, and it's also by design. So yeah, Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. You guys could also follow me on X and Blue Sky at MondoMan12. So Eddie, thank you so much for doing this with me and hope to connect with you very soon.
All right. Thanks, Armando.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Eddie Garcia, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.